Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast. We're at the St. Paul Ice Show. We've been able to talk to a lot of different people at the show, and right now we've got a couple of guys that I think you're going to enjoy. They've got some great personalities. These guys are cousins. They've been fishing together since they were wee little tykes, and these guys, they're not wee little tykes anymore. But these guys, they fish the Metro Lakes. They know the Metro Lakes really well, and we wanted to talk to them today a little bit about fishing the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area, and I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. So, guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Yep, thanks.
So we got Al right here to the left. We got Mario to the right, and guys, it's just a pleasure to talk to you. So you guys are fishing. We've talked to Paul Gazzoni a little bit earlier, and we're going to have him on again here at the show. But you guys are fishing in his league, the Minnesota Made Outdoors League. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yep, we're fishing Minnesota Made. It's basically a panfish tournament series, 4 tournaments. I think this is our 4th year fishing with Minnesota Made. We've done other tournament circuits. We've done the Frankie's State Championship. We just love chasing panfish, and anywhere from the Metro to, you know, some of the destination lakes, but mainly the Metro just because it's close and easy.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit, some of the lakes that the league is hitting this year and where you guys will be doing a lot of your work this year.
The first tournament we'll be doing this year is going to be held on Chisago, which I think will be pretty cool because we'll be able to get a little extra fishing time in for the state championship, which we'll be fishing for Frankie's this year. Our next one's on Mazasco, which is down south. After that, we've actually fished that lake only a few times. That's kind of a different one, but it's really a bigger basin lake kind of to me. A lot more humps. It's kind of like a small, like Mille Lacs, I would almost compare it to. It's not really a shallow structured lake to fish. We found a lot more deeper. And then we have Green Lake up in Isani and Clearwater out in Annandale.
Awesome. Tell me about Chisago. You guys have fished that lake a lot. What's the fishing like out there?
Extremely fun. There's a great number of fish. There's some really good sized sunfish, some good sized crappies, but the big thing is the numbers. It really doesn't take a whole lot to find them. The one difference that we've noticed with that particular lake, it's a weedy, shallow bite for the most part. If you're fishing, you know, in the evening hours, early morning hours, then you can kind of get into the deeper holes type of stuff. But really throughout the course of the day, you find yourself some good weeds, and you're gonna find fish. And like I said, there's good numbers. It's a perfect lake to take kids out just because there's so many fish. But you can find some really nice sunfish, and you can find some really nice crappies in there mixed in. And we're talking, I don't know, we like I said, fishing shallow weed lines. We're anywhere from 3 feet of water to 9 feet of water for the most part of what we're doing. We fish mainly during the days just because that's when tournament circuits run, and that's when we like to get our practice essentially.
Yep.
So we don't do a whole lot of the evening bites for at least for panfish. If we get a chance to do an evening bite, we're usually out chasing walleyes or trying to do something a little different. So shallow weeds on Chisago, tungstens, real small stuff, different presentations. You know, there's a number of different plastics that have worked for us, a number of different colors, and it depends on the day, it depends on the bite, but we like to fish small baits in shallow water.
And it always seems to be like a very productive lake. For the pressure that it gets, it's unbelievable how the sustainability of the fish always seems to come back. Like somewhere in there, you can go and find, usually fish just about anywhere, but you'll find pods of different quality sized fish. So a lot of them you'll find maybe like your 6 to 7 inch bluegill, which might make people happy. Some awesome, you're out there catching it, but fishing for the tournaments, we got to find the 8s and 9s, hopefully a 10, which in the Metro everybody knows is extremely hard to come by. And then crappies, it's a little bit different of a lake, I feel too, because a lot of people think when you're fishing for crappies, you want to go out deeper. Immediately people are like, we're going to go crappie fishing. You're fishing in 30 feet of water. You're going to fish half the water column down at the thermocline, and you're going to fish right there. Al and I rarely ever fish over 12 feet the entire year. That is one of our things we've noticed, which there's lots of ways to go about it, but what a lot of people don't realize is those fish will stay weed oriented the whole year. All you have to do is find the weeds and there will be fish there. And it might be a little pocket that you need to go into. It might not be necessarily always on the edge too. You might want to go inside where someone would be like, I'm not going in there, it's 5 feet of water. Well, you have no idea, but on your walk out, you just literally walked over some of the best fish that you could have been pursuing, but you went out deeper where everybody is and stuff like that. Also, stay a little bit away from the crowds. You'll see big groups out there. Don't just go to those spots because you think they're going to be a great spot. You know, there's people there. A lot of people like to just follow people, follow the pack. Get away from the pack. There's going to be just as good fishing to the side of that pack and probably better, less pressured fish. A lot of stuff where everybody will go right in the group and be like, oh, there's a bunch here. They also have 800 jigs being dropped around them. People drilling holes, people dropping ice houses down, slamming truck doors.
Running generators.
If you're in short water, I mean shallow, if you're in that, all that stuff makes effect. Like, I've personally fallen. I'm a big guy. I have fallen on the ice in shallower water, like slipped, and literally the fish were gone. The whole column of fish was gone. It happened. So you can't tell me when a truck drives across it or something, all that pressure, that is definitely educating the fish, just like any other thing out there. You know, they start getting used to that and start being really finicky, and if you get away from that a little bit, it seems to help a lot.
Yeah, so you guys are talking about fishing in these shallow water areas, and there's a lot of shallow water areas on every lake, but especially Chisago. There's so much shoreline there and the way the lake twists and everything like that. How do you find the spot on the spot? Because there's tons of places in Chisago that you can find with 5 foot of water.
Moving, searching constantly. Al and I drill a lot of holes. We really do. A lot of people go out and they say the average fisherman drills a lot of holes in a day. When you're talking, their lot is 12. Al and I will go out and burn through our batteries in our drills, which we're using the new flights this year, and it's just easier. You drill really good, quick holes. You can just Swiss cheese with them real nice and drop your camera down, look, move on. If they're not there, move. If they're there, what kind of fish are they? Move on again, and just keep kind of following them. Look for those little pockets. A lot of the spots, finding spot on spots also, is if you go out earlier in the year, say in a boat, you can see those little weed pockets. Mark that on your camera or whatever on your unit, and you can go right out there and literally get right on that spot where somebody might drill 5 feet to the right, 10 feet to the left, and you're in nothing but weeds, and they're like, you have no idea that there was literally a 7-foot giant pocket that was probably loaded with fish right between that. But you know that from earlier in the year, which when there's ice, you can't see that stuff.
And the big thing is, you know, utilizing tools like Navionics on your phone. I mean, everyone can get a GPS system now right on their cell phone for very reasonably priced. When you start looking at, you know, the different contours, it really depends on there's so many different factors, but you can find spots with a gradual kind of a flat that has good weeds on it, on Chisago, in getting into corners or something like that. Sometimes you can find them in the tight pinches. You're just looking for any sort of structure leading to those weeds. I mean, and really, like Mario said, the only way you're going to find it is by scouting the lake out of a boat and marking it, and if you don't have that capability, just be prepared to drill a lot of holes. That being said, you know, if you're just looking to go out on a Saturday, enjoy your day with the family, you don't have to necessarily plan on, you know, running and gunning and covering a whole lot of water, but you definitely do want to plan on drilling, you know, in a few different spots until you at least find some fish before setting up. Especially if you got kids, you need to make sure you're on fish so they don't lose interest too quick, and then they just hate fishing and don't ever want to go anymore. So I guess my biggest tip when you're fishing shallower, weedier type lakes is just be prepared to drill some holes and search out those empty pockets of weeds or those weed lines, and have fun getting on them.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've found, and you guys obviously have fished Chisago a lot more than I have, but the cool thing about that lake, I think if you're looking for a place to take some kids and get some action, with all the weeds that are there, if you don't care about how big the fish that you are catching, there's tons of fish in there, and you can go just about anywhere in the shallow water areas and you're going to be pulling fish out of holes.
Yep. You can tell, like last year when Al and I scouted around and did some stuff, and the year before, we literally found fish just about everywhere in the lake, from the north end to the south end. They're pretty much everywhere, but once again, you get that quality, or you'll find a certain point that has a good weed structure on it, and there might be just loads of fish there. You might go 20 yards to the side at something that's the exact same structure and it's holding nothing. So I mean, just looking and finding them, and that's what we're going to work on a little more this year, is a lot more just cameraing rather than actually trying to fish it a little bit and stuff, because if there's that many there when you're finding them with the camera, chances are you're going to get something to bite.
Sure. You guys have fished Clear Lake a lot too. Tell me a little bit about that one.
That lake is
our nightmare.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge. It's
great fish.
It's a huge lake. There's a lot of different ways to fish it. Again, for us, what we found to be most effective for what the style fishing that we do, we're looking for weeds, that kind of structure again, shallower water. You know, there is a couple spots on that lake where you are going to be getting into the 20-foot holes when you get into some of the bays and stuff like that. And if you got a Panoptics or you got a group of guys that's willing to chase them, there's some great fishing to be had in the basin. But they're
giant crappies out there too.
Roaming fish, so it's harder to stay on them. But you will, you know, when you can get on those roaming schools, you will tend to get into those bigger crappies. It is a tougher bite, but the quality of the fish is definitely there when you get on them.
And we're talking 40 to 50 feet when you're fishing those out in that basin. So I mean, if you can picture that, you're literally drilling a hole. If anybody knows Clearwater, that's a very big lake. For drilling a hole out in that basin, that's like literally the needle in a haystack. You know, you might drill, and if you don't have certain units like Al's Panoptics, when you're searching around, you can cut some of that drilling time out. So that's another thing that makes it more successful and faster. You don't have to search that area if you know there's nothing there. You don't need to drill holes 15 feet away and redrop and check everything. You can go out to the furthest point. You can keep moving, whether you think maybe they're in a little bit, up a little bit, and then you'll hit a pod. Maybe you can start catching them really good, and I would say 30 seconds, they're gone. They are constantly moving out there. And another thing I feel about Clearwater is it's more... There's a couple spots where you can get like bluegills and crappies together, but Al and I's plan usually is we have bluegill spots, we have crappie spots. So it's tougher. I know last year Al did catch some really, really nice crappies and very shallow, which that is never really the case for us. Usually they're deeper out there. They are. And that lake for us, there's a couple really good shallow spots, but it mainly is a little bit deeper of a bite out there if you're going for better quality fish.
You guys are both gear junkies and you got tons of stuff with you when you're going out there. Is your presentation different when you're out there fishing in that 50 foot of water compared to when you're in tight and you're fishing 8-9 feet of water? How are you changing that stuff up?
Bigger baits fishing more aggressive when we're in deeper water, because you can call the fish in from so much further away. So that bigger presentation, number one, is generally going to attract some of the bigger fish, and it just gives you more of a presence in that, as Mario said, needle in the haystack, the vast basin of these lakes.
Then if you do happen to find them in the basin, try to keep like a line down there. Like if you're going, don't give them the chance to move off. Like a lot of times, like when a hole's hot, you know, like Al and I have had a hole that's so good where one's not as great 2 feet away, where we are literally pulling a fish out, he's dropping his line, I'm taking it off. By the time he's pulling one up, I'm dropping back down. It seems kind of ridiculous, but when they're going, and you just got to stay with them. And
as soon as you kind of leave that hole blank for a couple, 30 seconds, that school might lose interest, and on a lake like that they could be 50 yards away in a blink of an eye, and now you got to try and find them again, where when you find them, you got to keep them going as quick as you can. I mean, there's situations where we'll, like Mario said, we'll fish the same hole just to keep that hole active. There's other situations where if we got a couple different holes that are hot, we'll have 3, 4, 5 rods laying next to us with very similar presentations that I pull up a fish on this rod and
drop it.
Set it down and drop the next rod down. I mean, obviously, if you pull it up and it's not the quality of keeping fish, you got to keep it alive, so you're gonna, let it go right away or whatever. But the big thing is, once you get on those schools, is just to keep them active and keep them hungry and keep your bait down there on top of them.
You're using tungstens with plastics in that shallow water. What are you guys using in deep water? What type of lures are you using?
Tungstens with plastics is pretty much our go-to for the most part, but when we get into the deeper water, we do fish some more spoons. Again, we usually tip those with plastic. That's something that a lot of people don't tend to see. We very rarely fish with live bait. Other baits that we really enjoy using in deep water would be like your jigging wraps, your Z-vibers, stuff with rattles, just big profile. They're a lot of fun, especially when you can get on an aggressive bite. That, I mean, even if you're catching a 7-inch crappie when you're doing a rip and wrap or a jig and wrap, it's a lot of fun to get those fish fired up for that big of a bait. They hit it pretty hard.
And
usually.
they do, and they'll woof that thing right in, and that's what's awesome about it. Even those big old shad wraps and stuff, they'll crush them. And a lot of people just don't do that. A lot of people go with the traditional demon jig or a plain hook and a waxy or a plain hook and a minnow, and that's great, but I just feel like you're not utilizing the water column to the best of your ability. A lot of things we've found too on some other lakes is when you're fishing deep, you might say you're in 20 feet of water, a lot of fish are marking at 10. We found them before where they're 2 feet under the ice, and you would never know unless you were dropping fish in there. They just show up. Other than that, so many people are dropping past and through fish. A lot.
It's been fun talking to you guys, and I've fished with you several times before. And the thing that I love about you guys is you guys have been fishing together forever, and you love to kind of get on each other once in a while. Tell me about some of your adventures and just some of the stuff and what it's like for you guys to fish together.
Oh, man. Well, Al's birthday's on February 3rd, so we usually try to make an ice fishing trip around that. We used to go to the big pond every year, Mille Lacs. We kind of moved away from that because I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in the world that can't catch a walleye on Mille Lacs over 7 inches. And that's just a known fact. Like, I could go with the best in the industry, and I feel I just don't have the success that other people do. I mean, people right next to me will catch them all day long, but it got to the point where I was just sticking my head down the hole to see what was going on because Al's catching stuff, everyone around us is catching stuff. And we've had some good experiences, some bad experience. We like to go to Big Stone a lot out fishing, do a little trip out there. We usually go through Artie's Bait and Tackle and rent a place through them, and then we just kind of go do our own thing. We don't fish with any guides or nothing, but we know some pretty decent spots out there, and it's been, I don't know, I've just always fished with Al. I enjoy it. It's fun.
We have a lot of good adventures, and we've had a lot of really dumb ideas over the years. I guess if you're looking for a good story, I got one that always comes to mind when a few years ago we were fishing late ice, and it was that time of year where shores were just starting to break up, and we got to the lake extremely early because that's just
North
how
Metro
we roll.
Lake. Yeah.
And the shore was frozen completely up. We hopped on the wheelers. We went out, started fishing, and we're fishing, and we're absolutely crushing them and just having a blast. And we started to notice that people keep pulling to the boat launch, and they walk up to the shoreline, turn around, get back in their trucks, and leave. And we're like, Well, Mario decides that he needs a snack, so we left everything back in the truck. So he hops on my wheeler and he flies back towards shore, and I'm catching fish, and I look over and he's just standing next to the four-wheeler, and hops back on, turns around, and flies back to me. I'm like, oh, that was kind of odd, and So he gets back and he's like, I don't know how we're going to get back to the truck. There's at least 20 feet of open water. And I'm like, wonderful. So,
mind you, we have the four-wheeler out there, all of our gear, and
600, 700 pounds of guy hanging out.
Toboggans, our shack full of stuff.
So we decide, well, we better pack up and see if we can't figure this out.
I drew the short end of the stick, or short straw, whatever you want to say. It was terrible. I lost. So I got to get all of our stuff up to the edge, and I got to take my bibs and my shirt and all that off and literally climb in the water, in 15 feet of water, and swim to the landing. And Al proceeded to load everything on the four-wheeler and hit it going 70 miles an hour, and he just made it right across and thought it was the coolest thing ever, as I'm sitting in the truck in just my boxers with him riding back into town for an hour, just praying we're not going to get pulled over. It was...
Where can we find this on YouTube?
I wish we could. You know, you say you drew the short straw on that deal, but I can tell you, when I rode that four-wheeler across, it could have ended a lot worse for me.
Yeah, we could have.
But, I mean, that's just one of the many. I mean, honestly, pick the worst snowstorm, the worst weather we could possibly have, and my phone will ring. An idiot will want to go drive halfway across the state to go catch some fish. And
Al says yes every time, so who's the real idiot? I mean, come on.
I mean, that's just the kind of thing. I mean, we fish a lot as much as we get a chance to. The tournament fishing thing is really kind of taking over our winters because we spend a lot of time scouting, a lot of time preparing for that. And with the tournament fishing, you know, you get into a groove where it doesn't matter what the weather is going to be, you got to be prepared for it. So to go out on some of them bad storms, all it's doing is giving us experience and giving us chances to learn different tactics, you know, whether it's, you know, a cold front moves in and you now used to fishing with a little bit bigger tungsten. We never really fished with the real tiny stuff. Well, I have, but Mario always hated it. But you kind of learn that in certain weather conditions you have to go from a 5 millimeter tungsten down to a 3, you know. So you learn that, you know, in cold weather the smaller diameter lines makes a difference. You learn a lot of different things where if you're only going out on the super nice days when the fish are hungry and really active, you wouldn't have to learn how to battle or overcome those challenges.
Even with like everything you have, like even rods and stuff like that, all your stuff, your machines and stuff, that stuff functions totally different depending on the weather too, you know. So you also find out about that besides like how the fish are biting. How's your four-wheeler going to start? How's it going to run? Is it going to start when you park out on the ice? Are you going to be able to get off the ice? All these little things. Is your reel going to freeze? How's your line hold up? All just different things. So
it's made you guys a lot better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. It was really fun. I want to have you guys on again later on, maybe doing some other stuff, but really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing some of your tips and techniques for some lakes that people in the metro, you know, sometimes it's tough to get that information. I think you guys gave some good stuff without giving away your playbook, but I think you guys gave out some good stuff to help people get on fish. So appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having us. Just don't be scared to go shallow at all.
Another thing too that we didn't really mention, talking about metro lakes, there's a lot of different opportunities. Hop on the DNR website, look at their netting reports, look at the type of fish that they're stocking in there, look at all that kind of information. You don't have to go to the big lakes where there's a lot of people. I mean, if you can find some reports on them where they're stocking fish or netting good fish, don't be afraid to go try it out, try new water, and, you know, make a little in-town adventure and catch fish.
Just because there's not a pile of people on it as well, don't be afraid to go drill out the spot where nobody's drilled all year. You know, I mean, lots of opportunity out there. Fish move.
A lot of eliminating water is what it is, and just get out there, have fun, and tight lines. Let's all go out and catch some fish. I know I can't wait to get on the ice.
I know.
Thanks a lot, Chris. We appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, bud.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.